In 1995, a Japanese illustrator wrote about a deadly virus that would emerge in 2020. She called it decades before COVID-19. Ryo Tatsuki's diaries are filled with predictions that came true with chilling accuracy. Earthquakes, celebrity deaths, even Princess Diana's tragedy. But her latest warning is the most terrifying yet. A mega-tsunami in July 2025. Are these dreams or prophecies? The unsettling accuracy of Tatsuki's visions? What sets Tatsuki's visions apart is their unsettling accuracy, down to specific people, places, and moments in time. In 1976, she recorded a dream about a Queen concert with Freddie Mercury absent from the stage. She didn't understand its meaning, but the image lingered. Years later, on November 24, 1991, Mercury died from complications related to AIDS, and the world saw Queen perform without their iconic frontman for the first time. The details in her sketch, an empty spotlight, the crowd's confusion, matched reality in a way too precise to ignore. Another case stands out for its chilling specificity. Tatsuki once dreamed of a woman trapped in a concrete shelter, desperately calling for help. She drew the scene in her diary, capturing the cramped space and the woman's expression. Not long after, a murder was reported in an underground bomb shelter, and the victim's appearance and the crime scene mirrored her vision almost exactly. These weren't vague predictions. They were snapshots of moments yet to come. Perhaps the most haunting of all was her foresight of the Great Hanshin earthquake in 1995. Her notes described violent tremors striking a city, with buildings collapsed and streets buried in debris. When the earthquake devastated Kobe that January, the destruction unfolded just as she had written, down to the neighbourhoods most affected. More than 6,000 lives were lost, and the tragedy left a permanent mark on Japan's memory, echoing the devastation Tatsuki had already recorded. Unlike generic fortune-telling, which often relies on broad statements, Tatsuki's visions contained granular details, exact dates, locations, and the emotional atmosphere of each event. Her writings even included a premonition of Princess Diana's tragic death, described before the Paris tunnel crash as the loss of a beloved figure surrounded by flashing cameras. Of course, not every vision played out as she dreamed. Some sketches remain unexplained, and a few, like her note about Mount Fuji erupting in 2012, never came to pass. These misses complicate her story, suggesting that her dreams might be warnings or possibilities rather than absolute certainties. If these dreams were warnings, could they have changed history? For all the questions her visions raise, one thing is clear. Tatsuki's notebooks became a haunting record of tragedies that would later unfold. Among these, one prediction would stand out for its precision and impact, a date that would change Japan forever. In her 1999 manga, The Future I Saw, Ryo Tatsuki quietly included a date that seemed insignificant at the time, March 11, 2011. Years later, that date would become seared into Japan's collective memory as the day the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami struck. The 9.0 magnitude quake unleashed waves that overwhelmed entire towns, claimed nearly 20,000 lives, and led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. What was once a small detail in a self-published comic became a chilling echo of reality. Tatsuki's prediction was remarkable not only for its content, but for its precision. She didn't offer a general warning about earthquakes, she named the exact date years in advance. Her manga depicted massive waves crashing over coastal cities, with water engulfing buildings and streets. When the tsunami arrived in 2011, the scenes on the news closely matched her illustrations. Rescue crews described cement structures cracked open like eggshells, a phrase that echoed both their real-life accounts and the images Tatsuki had drawn more than a decade before. After the disaster, people began to revisit her manga, searching for other overlooked warnings. The accuracy of the March 11th prediction sent a wave of unease through Japan's manga community and beyond. Tatsuki herself was unsettled by the attention. In interviews, she explained that she never saw herself as a prophet. She believed the date was just a random detail from her subconscious, not a message about the future. She said she didn't recognize the significance of her drawings until after the events had already unfolded. This moment marked a turning point in how people viewed Tatsuki's work. Scholars and researchers began to analyze her notebooks, looking for patterns and clues. Even government officials took note, consulting her diaries when considering updates to tsunami preparedness plans. Despite this, Tatsuki maintained that she had no control over the process. Her role was passive, like a radio picking up signals she couldn't fully interpret. The 2011 earthquake and tsunami remain the most verified and haunting of her predictions. Yet, the inconsistencies in her visions, like the unfulfilled eruption of Mount Fuji, leave room for doubt. Some wonder if her dreams are warnings, possibilities, or glimpses of a future that isn't set in stone. As people began to look more closely at her past writings, another entry began to draw attention. A vision of a different kind of disaster, one that would touch the entire world. The story of Tatsuki's COVID-19 prediction begins in 1995, when she wrote in her diary about a mysterious virus that would emerge exactly 25 years later in 2020. At the time, her notes were dismissed as just another odd dream tucked away in a self-published notebook. But as the world shut down in the early months of 2020, people returned to her writings and found details that felt uncomfortably familiar. A sickness spreading quietly, cities growing silent, and people covering their faces with masks. What set this vision apart wasn't just the timing, but the uncanny specifics. Tatsuki's entries described images of empty streets, crowds in masks, and political leaders struggling to respond. She even noted that the virus would peak in April before fading, only to return a decade later. A detail that caught the attention of those searching for answers in the chaos. Her sketches and descriptions mirrored the confusion, the overwhelmed hospitals, and the sense of fear that swept across the globe. Unlike vague predictions, Tatsuki's account included concrete elements: the year, the global scale, and the emotional atmosphere. She wrote of a disease that would start overseas, cause panic, and disrupt daily life. These weren't broad guesses. They were observations that echoed the reality of the pandemic as it unfolded. Still, her diaries weren't warnings meant for the world. Tatsuki never claimed to understand the meaning behind her dreams, and she offered no advice on how to prepare. Could these warnings have softened the pandemic's blow? We'll never know. The entries sat unnoticed for decades, only gaining attention once the events they described had already begun. The accuracy of her COVID-19 vision added a new layer to her reputation. After earthquakes, celebrity deaths, and now a global pandemic, it became harder to dismiss her as simply lucky. Tatsuki herself remained reserved, insisting she was just a woman recording her dreams, not a prophet or a guide. Yet, the pattern was impossible to ignore. Public reaction to her predictions has grown more intense. When her latest vision resurfaced, a Hong Kong-based travel agency, WWPKG, reported a 50% drop in bookings to Japan during the Easter break, driven by public concern over her prophecy. As more people revisit her work, the question becomes not just whether her visions are real, but what we're supposed to do with them. They arrive as fragments, unanswered warnings, unaccompanied by instructions. With her track record of unsettling accuracy, each new prediction carries more weight. And now, attention is turning to her most recent and ominous vision, a warning that has already begun to shape public behavior, even before its date has arrived. Ryo Tatsuki's latest vision stands out for its scale and the ripple effect it's already causing. In her expanded 2021 edition of The Future I Saw, she describes a mega-tsunami set to strike on July 5th, 2025, triggered by a massive undersea earthquake south of Japan, possibly between Japan and the Philippines. According to her prophecy, the resulting waves could reach 3 times the height of those seen in 2011, That year, the Tohoku tsunami reached up to 133 feet in some places. If Tatsuki's vision proves true, the devastation could be far greater, threatening coastal cities and communities across a wide region. The predicted impact zone covers some of Asia's most vulnerable coastlines: Japan's eastern shores, the Philippine archipelago, Taiwan, Indonesia, and parts of India. Tatsuki marks the danger area as a diamond-shaped region connecting Japan, Indonesia, Taiwan, and the Northern Mariana Islands, an area already known for seismic instability. What makes her prediction even more unsettling is the level of detail. A specific date, a defined geographic zone, and disturbing imagery of boiling oceans, which some interpret as a sign of possible underwater volcanic activity amplifying the disaster's effects. Tatsuki's story invites us to question the boundary between coincidence and something deeper. Her record, filled with both uncanny hits and unexplained misses, suggests the future might be more flexible than we think. Whether her 2025 tsunami vision proves true or not, the pattern of her predictions matching real events is difficult to dismiss. Are these glimpses of fate or just rare alignments? The uncertainty is part of the mystery. Keep your third eye open. Even the unlikeliest visions can carry a warning. Have you ever experienced a dream or sign that felt prophetic? Share your story in the comments below.